Hey everybody, what is going on? Serial Overdrive here, and today we're playing Doom the Dark Ages. What we're going to be doing today is going over how to reduce lag and latency in this game. We're going to fix some stuttering, fix some bugs, and just get into how to make this game run better. So let's jump right into it and let's go into the settings, but while we do that, let's talk about drivers. Make sure all your drivers are updated. If they're not updated, that should be the first thing that you do at any game. Next up, if you're having issues with game crashing, go into Steam and verify your files. If you don't have Steam, you have Xbox or something like that you've got the game on, try to verify your files. If you can't do that, just reinstall the game. This fixes a lot of crashing issues because sometimes the game just downloads in a weird state. It sounds weird, but it does work, trust me. Now, for the people who want to know about settings, let's go over to this video section. So first off, windowed mode. This is a weird one. A lot of people say it doesn't affect anything, but it does affect a lot of things. Change from windowed to full screen to borderless windowed. Generally, going between windowed and full screen is where you're going to see the biggest difference. Sometimes it affects things, sometimes it doesn't, but this is always worth a try. The next setting that you want to pay attention to is the resolution. Lowering this to 120 by 720 is going to result in a better experience. There's going to be less lag, things are going to feel nicer. However, it's going to be a lower resolution. You can bump that resolution up, but do note it does affect things. Some people think it doesn't, but it definitely does. Now with the refresh rate, I've got a 240, which is crazy. Let's set it down to 60. 60 is a nice solid number. It feels right. It's going to feel good to you. Some people swear by 120, but unless you're playing competitive, I don't think it matters, and I don't think it's worth the extra lag that you sometimes get. Set it to 60, set it somewhere reasonable. If you're really having issues, set it down to 30. Try to play the game at a lower refresh rate, and overall you're going to have a better experience. Now with the VSync, I always like to turn this off. If you're going to turn it on, I'd recommend just turning it on. You can go with triple buffering or adaptive if you really want to, but sometimes VSync just throws things off. A lot of people says it increases your maximum frame rate and all that, but a lot of times it feels weird, and it does cause a lot of issues, especially with new games. So if you're running into issues, vertical sync might be the cause. The same with the resolution scaling mode. I like to turn this off just off the bat because sometimes these things there's issues that present with them, and if turning them off, it might fix issues. This is where we're talking about stuttering, we're talking about tearing, we're talking about issues like that, not necessarily lag issues. So vertical sync and resolution scaling mode, those are things I'd play with if you're having weird graphical issues rather than lag issues. If you are having lag issues, however, field of view is one thing that does affect things that a lot of people just ignore. Changing your field of view down to 90 will get you a little bit of an FPS boost. Now let's go down to the upscaler because this matters too. With the upscaler, what this does is it'll render something at a lower resolution, then you upscale it, hence the name upscaler. If you're taking my advice here and you're setting your resolution down, upscaling doesn't do anything. Don't worry about that. But if you want to play at a higher resolution, this is when you want to look into DLSS or FSR. If you get a NVIDIA card, DLSS. If you get an AMD card, FSR. Those are my recommendations. When it comes to the quality or the super resolution, how you want to set that, just always set to ultra performance, see if things run, and then play with it from there. I would recommend keeping frame generation off. And when it comes to FSR, just follow the same policy. If you've got XeSS, that means you're running an Intel card, so hats off to you, you're supporting another competitor. But I don't really know much about Intel, so I'm not going to front there. Hats off to you, though. You probably know more about computers than me. I don't know why you're watching this video. Get out of here, bro. You're cool. In a geeky way. Anyways, motion blur, don't worry about that, but turn it off or on for cinematic-only events because you assume that the designers knew what they were doing when they put motion blur in. Now, when it comes to overall quality sliders, I always set this to low. There's a lot of people who want to mess with these settings right away. Set everything to low. See if you get an acceptable FPS, and then go from there rather than just messing around with everything first. That's my opinion. Now, when it comes to the texture pool size, this is going to affect your memory. So if you got low RAM, you can set this all the way down. If you got 64, 128 gigs, if you got that 69 gig RAM slot, set it all the way up. Do what you want to do with it. But yeah, RAM does matter. VRAM does matter. This is for your video RAM, by the way. So the more RAM your graphics card has, the higher you can set this bar. But yeah, setting it down never does hurt. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through sort of all these settings here and going over which ones affect things the most. Now, when you play Doom, there's a lot of particles effects like that, everything like that. So lights, particles, those are going to affect a lot. Water is going to affect a lot. Volumetric is going to affect a lot. These are settings that generally I leave them as low. The things I would recommend boosting, they're going to get you sort of a better feel to the game. would be boosting something like the shading quality, the texture filtering quality, and the directional occlusion. This is just based on the most bang for your buck. Those are the settings I'd play with. Otherwise, particles and lights, it does feel really cool. Reflections feels really cool. But like particles and light, that changes a lot. That makes the game feel completely different, but it also causes a lot of lag. So those are two that you probably want to bump up, but when you do expect the game to run a little worse. Anyways, that's all I've got when it comes to running Doom the Dark Ages better. One thing to note is this game does use ray tracing, and you can't turn it off. So that does mean that this is a bit of a graphics hog, but you do get a better graphical experience. Feel free to comment down below on why you should be able to turn it off, because I really do think you should, but hey, it's up to the game's creators, and this is what they decided to do, so we are trying to make things work within the bounds. Also, there's probably someone that's going to produce a hack that turns ray tracing off, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, peace.